Alright guys, try number two. Yeah, that was fairly interesting. The fact that, wait. Just making sure it's live. Goodness sakes. Like, yeah, if somebody told me that it was echoing that badly, I definitely would have done something a little bit different, because, yeah, having some people from the channel would have been great. Thanks, guys. I mean, hey, you live and learn. So, I'm Lauren. Welcome to Break Zone, and we're gonna do a bit of a fire review because we don't have a video ready for tomorrow. So, this is a video live stream. So, if you want to join us at Twitch, go ahead and do so. That first video was, oh my gosh! Like, let's not do that again. And let me turn down the sound because I'm trying to catch a chat on my phone so it doesn't like take over the whole screen. And yeah, so we're gonna go over Fire, do a little bit of review for the set for Opus VII. Hopefully people enjoy it. Let's take a look. Yeah, it looks pretty nice, pretty clean. All right. Anyways, yeah, if it's doing that thing again where we're what's it called? Jesus, that's a lot of notifications. But if it's doing the echo, please let me know, because otherwise, obviously, I went on for 15 minutes of echoing noise. So to whoever tried to bear with it, I profusely apologize. That was pretty bad. But as I mentioned, it's I'm getting used to this. I'm just testing out the setup to see how it works out. Let's get you a video. Let's get started. So Oron 4-drop 8K. I'm going to do the homework for you in this set review. So category X forwards. So anybody wondering like, hey, what's that going to look like? All right, let's take a look. What forwards might be affected by this card? Might get Brave from this card. Don't include the first two Orons, obviously. Some of the notable ones would be like Titus, for example, would be pretty good. Titus and Oron right there. That's a 4-drop 8K and 1 blocking. That's another 1,000. Let's see what else would be interesting with Pain. Being able to like, well, attack relentlessly, as your opponent is going to have to decide whether or not they want to trade with a forward that might have been free. But in that case, Pain and Oron, you're probably playing like multiple elements. Unless it's title series, you'll have a bit of a problem. Let's see, the Riku and Pains would be pretty interesting though. They're not that big, so they might be better as blockers at that point. But Oron, I don't know how much I love the card. It is on curve at least, but I don't think it's meta shape changing by any means. All right, Aegis. I think that's an amazing card. On the other hand, one of the cards you want to look forward to playing with this card though. Let's take a look. Warrior of Light. Boom. Alright, and let's do exact match, because otherwise, there we go. So 2-drop forward Warrior of Light would be either Refia, but the one that you really want to look for is the one that we'll talk about a little bit later. Soul. That'd be really great with that to play in conjunction with Aegis. Warrior of Light surprisingly shows up again, but be able to deal up to 6,000 damage, I believe. Let's see. Oh no, wait, that's the one that gives a boost. So that's a little interesting if you play the Warriors of Light deck, if you have a bunch of them out and you play Aegis and Warriors of Light, but it seems like it's taking too much setup to do that. I'll say that Aegis and Soul, best combination you can think of in order to play out both of them together. Keep in mind that the cost 2 forward that you're playing onto the field, there's no restriction as to what element it is. So you'll be able to maybe play standard units with this one along with some other Warriors of Light. So that'd be a little bit interesting, but I don't think that's... So this set has creates a lot of opportunities to build decks that have more synergy than raw power. So where the combination of the two bring forth something stronger than the sum of its parts. In terms of Aegis and Soul, they're both good cards, but together they're just so much stronger. So it'd be interesting to see if all these little mechanics, a little bit of what you could call somewhat tribal, the job system where they work well in conjunction with one another, would be enough to create some new archetypes. Okay, Red Mage. So if you're playing one of these cards that is a 2-drop backup that requires you to play, or even a 3-drop backup that requires you to play more than one element, this is more than oh, it's not a backup, it's a forward, by the way, but 2-drop character that requires more than one element. That means that in order to get the full effect of it in an efficient manner, you'll be using 2 backups, building them for CP in order to get that effect. In this case, 1 fire backup, 1 ice backup, in order to be able to force your opponent to discard a card from his hand. 2-drop 4K that has that little extra ability here the following turn, discard the card from your hand. That seems pretty cool when you add it all together. Is that enough for me to add this card into a deck? I won't quite say so, but at least it's a Red Mage. So why don't we look up that little Red Mage deck that exists. Let's see, Red Mage. Alright, so if you want to make a Red Mage deck, there's definitely some opportunities in order to do that. And right here, if you control 4 or more, card named Red Mage, deal a forward 8,000 damage. That's cool. This one, in order to pull it off, and playing something that's other than Fire and Lightning, which has been the ongoing theme for Red Mage, would definitely pull you into more elements that make you less consistent. So I wouldn't really advise you to play that card. I should really skip over some of these cards when I don't think that much about them. Free, kind of cool. Keep in mind, most in all situations, whether revealing off the top of your deck or from the break zone. Look at the beautiful background, seeing its beautiful summon form. Rawr. Anyways, Ifrit. So the cards I can search for are, let's look at the filters. Did I put anything here? Nope, nope. Okay, summon Ifrit. Alright, these are all the copies of Retreat you can get. And Opus 7, that's a new one that we got. In terms of the ones that might be playable that I haven't seen in a while, I thought this one's pretty interesting. If you play Ifrit deck, that's definitely something where you can discard another copy of Ifrit and be able to deal 10,000 damage. 5,000 damage off EX Burst is pretty relevant against thaumaturges that are roaming around nowadays. Is this enough to make or break the deck? Not quite. He does synergize with Rain. Let me take off that summon thing. Alright, with this Rain, being able to get it to a 2-drop 5k, being able to search it out with Rain on top of that. That's synergy, but is that enough to make or break a deck, to bring it to the forefront, to break the meta? I wouldn't say so. But feel free to prove me wrong. Alright, next up, Ifrit, we talked about it. I don't love this card, the fact that it's 4-drop, and if you play it from your hand, it's only 7,000 damage. It's an EX Burst, which is, well, unless you're stacking your deck full of EX Burst and you want to take damage constantly or can force yourself to take damage somehow, this card compares poorly to Brynhildr, which is 3-drop 7k. Yeah, you get that little extra 1,000, but only on the EX Burst. This one's 7,000 power, equal to this one whenever played from your hand, and costs 1 less. So I don't love Ifrit, but maybe if you can make a deck based on Ifrit, that maybe you can show me what it's like. All right, next up, Varuna. 2-drop 8k, that's way above curve. The criteria to turn it into a forward isn't that hard to fulfill. Being able to deal a point of damage to your opponent can be wouldn't be too difficult. If you have, for example, Varuna, and well, after doing enough of these tries of these takes to do a fire set review, I've gotten used to some of the cards. Jack, for example, you play a bunch of Varunas. There's some multi cards, you can have more than one on the field at a time. Then you play Jacked, and that's dealing a point of damage to your opponent, and then all of a sudden you have a bunch of 8,000 power Brave that were there before the beginning of your turn, meaning that they don't have that restriction of not being able to attack that turn because they've been there since your prior turns probably. So that's a possible combo. That's interesting. There's That's one way to fulfill that requirement, to deal your opponent some damage, to be able to do some things. I haven't seen as much monster removal lately, and there's definitely some combos that can be put together with this card, and it could be interesting. I haven't thought of it all the way through yet. I mean, obviously, I only got to play with the cards from the pre-release this week, last weekend, and well, since it's only 10:09 Pacific Standard Time right now, it's not the street release date, and time for Opus 7 over in California. The players in the East Coast probably have a better time than me, like playing around with opening all their packs and checking out their Noctis promos and whatnot. So Varuna is an interesting card. I think there are decks that can be made to make this card work. It's not an auto-included fire, at least I can't think of it right now as an auto-include, but it can be a part of some pretty fun deck. I mean, like, just right now, checked and Varuna sounds pretty cool. Black Mage. So, just like there was a Black Mage Shot deck, there is a red... just like there was a Red Mage Shot deck, there's a Black Mage Shot deck. Okay? And, whoops, I should have... exact match, yeah. Oh, I'm surprised, like, oh, that is a Black Mage. Huh. Interesting. He's a Black Mage too. Wow. Didn't even think about that. Alright, anyways, this is the Black Mage I wanted to look at anyways. Being able to reduce the power of an opposing forward by 8,000 if you have 4 or more Black Mages in play. That counts. And normally, before it was kind of hard because most Black Mages were backups. So it has to be card name Black Mage. Okay, so it's none of this cool VV Palem, Black Waltz, none of that. So I don't even know why this is exact match and still giving me that. But I guess it's because of the job title. Okay, so we'll go with that. Most of these were backups before, and so there was a point where it's like, well, it's only gonna trigger off of like maybe twice, right? If you play this as the 4th Black Mage or as the 5th Black Mage, then you get able to trigger. But if you play now a forward Black Mage, then you could trigger it when it's the 3rd, the 4th, and the 5th backup that you play that's named Black Mage. So that's a little more interesting. Is that going to make or break the deck? I think this card's not bad. Be able to get rid of it, make more room to put more of this Black Mage into play afterwards is interesting, and be able to deal 4,000 damage to a forward is a little more relevant than some other things I've seen. But hey, it does have a little bit of a fire symbol here, fire cop. So not that easy. Alright, let's I did this for 15 minutes to realize that the first video didn't go well, so I'm gonna try to speed this up a little bit. Saz, I don't love it. Why? Because I compare it to Rydia, who's able to search for any forward. Is it worth 1 more CP for EX, but a restriction of fire summon only? I don't think so. But, it'd be cool if it were. Samurai, there's a restriction here, keep in mind, fire forward only. But the ability is really cool, 2,000 power and brave. But the dull and break ability is only usable if you receive 5 points of damage or more. So if you play that deck that was like Jack Varuna, then you definitely have some things you can do on top. Unfortunately, the Brave doesn't work well with Varuna because Varuna already has Brave. Alright, next up, Jacked. I think this card's cool. I'll say it. Yep. I like this card quite a bit. 4 drop, like a 1 drop if you've taken 4 points of damage or more. So if your opponent has kind of played into you, and well, I do expect most games, especially if you're aggressive, and maybe if they stonewall you, they're able to kind of stabilize the game, stabilize the field, then you will probably end up at 4 points of damage at one point or another. And at that point, well, Jack is able to kind of get you back in there. So if in a deck where if you want to get the full value out of checked, uh, you have to take points of damage before you go in there. You try to overcome your opponent with your board. So it's I mean, it's not hard to play aggro and to get a couple points of damage on your opponent, and later on get to 4 and eventually meet the criteria to play Jack for 1. That's not the hardest thing. The hardest thing is to be able to pull this off while you have taken more points of damage than your opponent, yet you still win. So, like I said, Varuna and Jack looks like an interesting combination. Don't know how effective it will be, but I'm sure there's other ways to get around it. I mean, we're talking about like Fusoya is around. Let's look it up. Fusoya, and I can't even spell Fusoya. Fusoya is around, so you'll be able to deal yourself damage. And if you play Fire and Earth, for example, you also got, you know, Noctis, Little Prince that came out as came out in Opus VII, and if you're playing EX Burst, then there's also, you know, who can forget Cecil, who's also very much on curve EX Burst and be able to slow down your opponent. So I think it'd be interesting. So, yep. Let's take a look. Summoner, I don't like this card. I don't think it's really worth it. I mean, even though at the 3 cost with a dual element requirement, it's pretty cool. I've watched other set reviews such as, what was it? I know Yuna Youngkin did one. I can't remember which other ones I've seen. I've been watching a whole lot of content lately. I do try to keep up with people, like from podcasts, what was it, the Turks? Some people have been talking about, I don't remember exactly which content creator talked about it, but they were talking about how Summoner compares to Amon, where with Amon for 1 more cost, since if you want the effect here, you have to use lightning, so you're playing like fire and lightning in combination. That Amon is able to pay 1 more, get 1 more thousand power, and do the effect turn after turn if you want to. This one's a 1 turn only. I don't really like this card. Next, Soul. We talked about it before. Soul's great. And Warrior. Did I misspell Warrior? Yep, 120 yards. Warrior of Light. Cool. Alright, we've got all these Warriors of Lights. That's a decent amount. Some of the ones people. This one's probably one of the more relevant ones. As well as for the effect that, you know, you can look at the top 5. And also when it breaks, you'll be able to bring Soul back into the field if that's the one you want. Obviously, the main one people want to look at, as we mentioned earlier when we're going over the set, Aegis, Soul, 3 combination, a lot of synergy there. But some other ones, let's take a look. Well, Lunith, give you plus 1,000, but being able to use Sarah to get Aegis back in order to play Soul for free is interesting. Keep in mind that if you think about Sarah, it does have a specification that, you know, other 4 or less other than light or dark. So don't be trying to play that cheeky wall with it. It's not gonna work. Alright, Soul, good card. Being able to play it along with Aegis for a 4-drop AK with a 7,000 power haste brave forward. That's pretty cool. Okay, next up, Berserker. I think it's a pretty cool card. 2-drop AK is way on curve. More of a mid-range stabilizing card because while you're able to trade up. 2-drop AK is huge. Normally it's 2-drop 5k to 6k, but 8k you'll be able to trade off with a decent amount of other forwards. Unfortunately, it's a one-time deal because whether you attack with it, or you block with it, or you deal damage to your opponent with it, or something like that, it'll go to your break zone. There's obviously ways to get around it, but I don't think it's really worth looking into that much. If you're using Sabin's ability to keep your Berserker from breaking, I mean, yeah, that's cool. You got a 2-drop AK and a 4-drop AK, and when Sabin attacks, like, Berserker can be broken, but what? I don't even know what that means. Anyways, yeah, either way, I don't think it's quite worth it. You know, that's a whole lot of effort. Anyway, okay, next up. This card, don't love it. 5-drop 8k. Yeah, you're able to deal 7,000 damage to a forward. And if you're playing Monofire though, at 5-drop, people have discussed it before. Let's see, forward, fire, 5-drop. There's a decent amount of good fire 5-drop forwards, so that slot is pretty taken up, especially if you start thinking about Jack over here. But 5-drop forward, since Opus 2, Emperor Zende, it's been a big deal. Like, yeah, you get an enter field effect here, but this one has a leave a field and an ongoing effect. Well, whenever he attacks, 5,000 damage. I would rather put Zende in my deck if I was playing Monofire than Bhagavan. So, yeah, I mean, kind of cool that it has a little extra effect, but I don't know. Alright, Fang. Graded title series. Getting that first or second trigger is not that hard. So keep in mind that it's category 13 character, not just forward. So let me clear that up. Let's look it up. Okay, 13. Boom. Done. Alright. Oh, I should make not summons. Whoops. Forward backup monster. There we go. Alright, you've got a whole lot of Final Fantasy 13 characters you can play. I mean, one of the obvious ones would be Mog 13-2. Be able to search out whatever card you want. Some other ones that are quite popular. Jill the Bot, if you're trying to slow down your opponent. This card does feel a little more like I would say like a defensive play, because first strike on offense, unless you're throwing other cards with it, such as like other effects that deal damage to opposing forwards, or maybe like I don't know, like a Fusoya or something like that, or there's definitely many other ones like Bomb. Yeah, Bomb would be pretty good. We'll go over Bomb in a little bit anyways. But yeah, that's because I did 13 crap. Anyways, so yeah, we'll go over Bomb and stuff like that, and other cards that deal additional damage on top of that. That works really well with first strike. That's pretty cool. Giving haste is not bad. Fulfilling that criteria for 6 category 13 characters is gonna be hard outside of title series. So I think this card is okay, but I think it's more of a title series card. Okay, Bomb. That's the card I wanted to talk about. If you use that in combination with a first strike forward, especially let's say you dole all your backups in order to play out cards that turn. Your opponent might think that if you have only 1 or 2 cards in the hand, like, oh, it's unlikely there's any combat tricks involved, so let's go ahead and block or go ahead and attack into it. Guess what? You'll be able to discard Bomb to deal an extra 2,000 damage, combining that with a 7,000 power first strike forward, and you'll be able to take out up to 9,000 power forwards and not even worry about taking any damage on that point. So that's really interesting. I think this discard a card to get an effect ability that a few of these monsters have are quite interesting. Bomb is definitely one of the ones that I think is going to be quite potent. Obviously, if your opponent is seeing you maybe pitch a bomb or use one earlier on in that game and you have a bunch of first strike, they'll be more weary about walking straight into that effect. But if you have it in hand and they haven't seen you, and you're playing in Swiss, for example, best of 1, they haven't seen your deck, then you have more chances of having your opponent just walk straight into it and lose out. Okay. Next up, Meath. I think this is a great card. Meath in combination with. Let me clear up some of the filters here so that I could. Okay. Whoop. Phoenix. Yeah, that's what I want to talk about. So, Meath in combination with Phoenix. So, by playing Meath and maybe discarding a 3-4 to search for another 3-4, playing a bit of a toolbox type deck, I think it'd be pretty cool because that way you could get a forward that you need right now that's more effective, and later on whether you need that forward back if in case your opponent was able to deal with it, or you want to bring the one that you kind of pitch. Let's say, for example, if you're playing Fire Wind, then being able to get, let's say, pitch a Strola early on to get a 3-drop forward that has an immediate effect on the field right now that you need. And then later on, when you build out a board, go ahead and Phoenix back Ishtola, taking dealing 8,000 power, 8,000 damage to, let's see, right here, 8,000 damage to a forward, bring back Ishtola, being able to maybe even put your Ishtola into the break zone in order to get to cancel out a summon or something like that that might win you put in the game. Like, there's a lot of little things that can happen. Let's see, Ishtola. And this Ishtola has been one of my favorite cards personally, being so versatile in so many ways. Like, if you build out a board and you have Ishtola and your opponent is trying to pull off shenanigans with like Chateau, well, wait, hold on, let me take a look. Yeah, I'm brainstorming at the same time, guys. Don't worry about it. Yeah, play the former. Choose a forward of cost 3 or less in the break zone. Play the former. Deal the ladder. Yeah. So you'd have to give up give up a forward in order to pull that off to cancel out Chateau with Phoenix. So maybe not the best play, but I think toolbox decks with Phoenix and Meath look really interesting, especially with the fact that once you have Meath out there, you don't have to you have at least one backup in play. So you will only have to pitch like 3 cards in order to reach that 7 CP to play Phoenix. Alright, next up, Lawn. Great card, goes really well with Rain. What? Whoops, wrong one. Original Rain from Opus 1. EX Burst, being able to search him out, and also has the ability to make him bigger. So a 4-drop, usually 9k, is pretty good. I like the ability. One of the ruling, the clarifications on the ruling is that this part right here, that's the part that goes on the stack and you have to deal with early on. You have to, when it triggers, when Lon deals damage to your opponent or to a forward, then you choose a forward. So let's say they have a Lua, you could go ahead and pop that shield in case Lon dealt damage to an opponent or forward. But also if you're thinking like, oh, I gotta be careful, you know, about that cost. Like, what if they remove Lon? Well, that part, this whole part right here, happens at resolution. So you don't have to choose to pay or anything like that until the ability is going to resolve for sure. So it's a really interesting way to say that this card is a lot more viable than some people initially thought. And I personally like it. 4-drop 9k, being able to go up to like 10k quite easily. People don't quite play the 3-drop Hecaton Care as much, so Rain isn't going to be taken out that often. Being able to search out for Rod is just a huge boon. And recurring damage, so if you think about this, right, like as a 4-drop 9k, then you can, it's a one-way damage, by the way, so it's dealt damage equal to lost power, and for that cost, if you think about it, it's similar to Opus 4 Hecaton Kier, right? But obviously in fire. Because to play Hecaton Kier, you have to just to use the card and pay 2. Here, you don't use a card, but you still pay an extra 2. So that's like 4 costs. That's like 4 costs because Hecaton Kier, the card itself, plus a 2, you have to pay for it. So it's interesting. Recurring damage is always something you have to consider. Recurring source of damage, if it's relevant enough, like this one, like sure, he doesn't have an enter the field ability, but once he's on the field, your opponent definitely has to consider like, what am I going to do about this card? It's a bit of a problem. Okay. All right. Next up, Latov. There's a bit of a theme in this set where there's father and mother. So, whoops. Let's take a look. Hope, for example, he's a father. Hope looks for father and mother to get those extra bonuses. That's pretty cool. But otherwise, Latov is mostly for the Crystal Chronicles forwards. And I will go ahead and search those out for you so that you can take a look. Alright, for the most part, Latov is definitely focused on Shalinka here. So if you play Latov to bring back Shalinka from your break zone, you will get 5 CP's worth of it, right? The card itself, that's 2, plus 3 win from Shalinka, so that's 5, and you already have a forward, a backup on the field, so that's like a 0 cost card. But As a 5 CP, that's not something you usually do like too early on, so it might be more of a mid game play. I could be wrong on that, but you get a lot of value out of that. The other card that obviously you can check for is Yuri, but Yuri will only be in your break zone if 1, it was broken and it got there that way, 2, you discarded it for some reason. So it is harder to pull off getting 6 CP's worth of cards from the enter the field ability from Latov, but it is possible. And also, there's also like no. There's another way to do it too. Is Talika is also in this set, but at that point you're playing what, fire, wind, and earth. So that's not the easiest combination. But Talika does give you the ability to discard a light or dark card for CP, so that'd be kind of interesting. And let's see what else. Ilaria would be able to search for one of those Shilinka or Yuri, and if you do the whole like, it's a bit of a classic where somebody discards an Alcid to pay for some of the CP of Gravis to search for another Alcid. You'd be able to do that with Ilaria, also Ilaria's EX burst, and that way you'll have Shilinka in your break zone so that Latov can trigger off the next turn. That's definitely one of the things you can do. Alright, next up we've got Lulu. I really like this card. Works really well with, well, Fusuya is such a popular card. But let me clear that up right here. Boom. Fusuya right here. Fusuya not only works well with 5 CP Lulu from way back in Opus 1, but also with this Lulu as well. So, wait, is it because... Nope, that shouldn't be the problem. Alright, cool. Anyways. Alright, whoops. Sorry, guys. Just double checking. Hopefully, like, this is not a double echoing video, just like I did the other 15-minute one. And here I am at a 30-minute mark. Anyways, being able to play Fusuya and then later on Lulu, and then be able to get so much value out of it, especially since when Fusuya enters is put from the field into the break zone, you get a card out of a forward out of it. That's pretty cool. Keep in mind that Lulu's not always the most economical way to do things, so I wouldn't just play a backup just so I could break it with Lulu. You definitely have to pick and choose which ones you do, but there are ways to get a lot of let's see, a whole lot of efficiency, a whole lot of value out of her. Okay. Next up, Rain works really well. She works with only 3 cards. Alright, let's take a look. Forward. Whoops. World of Final Fantasy. Only works with Ifrit, or Freet, with a really cool Ifrit in the background. Babliz with Shiva in the background. And Zapt with Ramu in the background. So, each of these is 2-drop 4K that switches out with the summon if it enters the break zone. So if you count it as Rain is able to get you a card out of it, so that's a 1-drop, a 1 CP 6K. That's pretty cool, especially at its EX burst. Very restrictive though; it doesn't search out every monster, just those 3 cards specifically, and making them 2-drop 5K that has a when they are put from the field into the break zone effect to get your card from your deck. It seems like a lot of engine, not a whole lot of power, unless you're able to get a huge amount of efficiency out of a combination of Shiva and Ramu, because Ifrit, I don't really love the copies of Ifrit that are available to you from using Freet. So it'd be interesting to see, at least, well, it is a heroic though, so you get a decent amount of value out of it, but is it going to be a new archetype? I'd want to see more World of Final Fantasy monsters before I even make that claim. And that's it for Fire. So hopefully you liked it. Hopefully you're having a good time over at your release day over in the East Coast, or now that it's 10 o'clock, I guess, Midwest as well. But over here in California at 10:33 p.m. on November 1st, 2018. Unfortunately, we haven't. It's not release day quite yet for us for Opus 7, so we're waiting another hour and a half or so. Hopefully you like what we do, you like this. I'm gonna try to make sure, I'm gonna double check after I finish this video that there's not that horrible echo that just came up with the previous video. Sorry, I apologize again regarding that. So if you go to our YouTube channel, which I left a link to on this video, once we reach 800 subscribers, we will randomly choose one of the 800 subscribers that we have and they will be given the choice of which prize they want to get. And this is valid, I believe, internationally, as long as you fit the criteria for giveaways where you're allowed to receive those things. Anyways, from Magic, a Box Ember. From Dominaria, from Magic, Horizon Canopy. From Modern Masters. Also, one pack of 60 sleeves, Cactuars, because they're cute. And at the time that we were giving out this prize, Cactuar was quite relevant with that Luma. Lightning, she's now a backup, a plushie, and a forward. And last but not least, Shiva deck box from the Toronto Crystal Cup with Taro Kageyama's signature, one of the producers of the game. So hopefully you like what happened here, and you subscribe and you hit that bell or whatever they say nowadays. And any comments or questions, go ahead and put them down below. And if you have any suggestions or any requests, anything that you want to see us do, we'll try to live up to your expectations. And we'll catch you next time.